What is going on, everybody? Been a diehard Pistons fan since 2003, and this team is sizzling. The Detroit Pistons just got their 7th win in a row. The longest Pistons winning streak in 10 years is still ongoing as the Pistons get a win 106-97 over the LA Clippers at home. In this video, we are going to go through, highlight 3 key performances from tonight, and just kind of discuss and recap this really back and forth competitive physical game with the Clippers. So the first player that we do need to discuss is Cade Cunningham. He had 32 points, 9 boards, and 7 assists to go along with 3 steals. Just another day in the office for Cade Cunningham tonight. He was doing Cade things. He is starting to look really good at end of quarter, end of shot clock type of situations. At the end of the first half, he had a big time bucket to get us momentum to go into halftime with. And at the end of the game, he also had a wide open 3 that was an absolute dagger. So really impressed with how Cade has been improving in that area and on that front. He was even diving for balls tonight, just doing it all, really. 3 steals, shows up in the stat sheet as well. And have to talk about the lob connection, because it seems like we can't go longer than a quarter of basketball without a Cade to Duren lob any longer. And of course, Duren needs a lot of credit for being able to provide that vertical spacing and be a great lob threat. But Cade is just special when it comes to finding Duren on those. And that connection is something that I am looking forward to watching for a long time going forward. So overall, a great game for Cade. There was a couple things in the box score that might not look super pretty, like 9 for 22 shooting, which isn't great, but not exactly horrible. He did have 7 turnovers, but didn't even really notice that or feel that in game. He did get to the free throw line 12 times, which might be a season high because we all know how that goes with Cade. But all in all, 32, 9, and 7. Another great game for Cade Cunningham. So moving on, the next player that we do need to discuss is Ausar Thompson. His stats might not jump off the stat sheet with just 10 points, 2 boards, and 3 assists, but where he did fill it up was on the defensive end. He did have 4 steals and 2 blocks, and I'm happy that that happened because that backs up what I saw with my eyes, and that was Ausar Thompson playing an incredible game on the defensive end of the floor. He was tasked with guarding James Harden for the majority of the night, and especially in the second half, I felt like he did a great job of making Harden's life harder. You're never really going to fully stop James Harden because he's going to find ways to score, whether that be making shots, and if that isn't working, he's going to go into all this stuff, trying to draw fouls. So Harden's going to get some points, but Ausar did as good of a job as humanly possible of containing him. He had a huge steal and a huge block in the fourth quarter when the game was more or less for the taking, really the most important stretch of the game, and Ausar really kind of dictated how that went with his defensive presence. And you could really tell that the Clippers did not want to see him with their ball in their hands. They were trying to do everything to get Ausar switched off of their primary creators and working really hard to try and operate on whatever side of the floor Ausar was not on. So really impressed with how Ausar Thompson was able to swing this game defensively. He did whiff a wide open layup because he did slip on the floor. So blame the Mop boys for that one, because he could have had 12 points if he would have been able to convert that. But at the end of the day, the reason why he was on the fast break is because he ripped it right out of Harden's hands. So all the credit in the world to Ausar. So happy that he is back and starting to play as great as he ever has as a Piston. So moving on, the next player that we do need to discuss is Tobias Harris. He goes out and scores a cool and calm 20 points. Also chipped in 5 boards and 2 assists, 9 of 13 shooting, just incredibly efficient. And I've been really happy with how Tobias has played this entire year, but in particular, kind of the turn of the new year, especially the last month time frame, has been really good. Tobias Harris has done a great job of being able to create for himself, whether that just be calling an ISO, clearing out one side of the floor, backing down, I was going to say smaller players, but he does it to bigger players too, finding his turnaround jump shots. He's a very low maintenance player, and very, very rarely will Tobias Harris really cause you too many issues. And I know some people might disagree with that, but that's how I find my experience watching Tobias play basketball. calm, cool, collected, stable, a rock for this team. And I've been really impressed, particularly how he has played the last month or so. Pretty much on this 7-game winning streak, he's been really good. So overall, just a great game for the Pistons. This was a really fun one to watch because it was very, very physical. Both the Clippers and the Pistons were locked in defensively, and it did lead to the Pistons getting to the free throw line a lot. They did shoot 36 free throws tonight and converted on 69% of them. I know that they had an opportunity to probably blow this thing out a little bit earlier if they could have converted on, say, 5 or 6 more of those free throws, which was entirely possible, but definitely not about to nitpick that as the Pistons are on a 7-game winning streak. But overall, just a super physical, fun game to watch. And you can really kind of see the Pistons brand and identity that JB Bickerstaff has talked so much about wanting to build coming into fruition. When you play the Pistons, it's going to be a chippy game. It's going to be hard to score at the rim. It's going to be hard to run your offense because you've got guys like Ausar, Ron Holland, and even Dennis Schröder now, who plays pretty good perimeter defense, jamming up your guards. So you know what you get when you're watching a Pistons game at this point in time. You're going to see some lob dunks. The Pistons are now leading the league in dunks at 6.5 per game. And it's been so fun. This winning streak, man, has just brought so much joy and life into my Pistons fandom because I've been waiting on a moment like this for ages. Right now, the vibes are as high as they have been in my recent memory. Have to go all the way back to when Chauncey and Rip and Tayshaun and Rasheed were on the team. The last time that I've had this much fun being a Pistons fan. And I was, in middle school when that happened? I know that some people might say the Blake era or when we had cut Josh Smith and Brandon Jennings was going crazy potentially was as fun as this, but I don't think so. I think that this Pistons team would beat any of the Pistons teams that have existed going all the way back to that 2008 team that consisted of Chauncey and Rasheed and Tayshaun and them. And it's also just way more fun because this is going to keep going on. This is just the beginning of all of this. The Pistons' young core is really starting to turn the page and develop into real players, and Cade is at the forefront of that, turning into a superstar. So I think we'll be looking back on this in 5 years saying, yeah, that 2024-25 season when JB came in and Beasley showed up and Tobias showed up, that's where it all started. So you can really just feel the culture shift. The fans at the Little Caesars Arena are showing up and packing out the crowd at a level that they haven't since they have moved there. As far as I can tell, I only get over to a couple games a year, so maybe I'm not the best person to vouch for that, but the last time I was in the building, the energy felt different. And the vibes are just immaculate right now, man. I'm having the time of my life as a Pistons fan, at least in my adult life. Back when they were contending for championships when I was a kid, that was great, but at the end of the day, I was 10 years old, so I didn't really know what was going on to this degree. So I'm having so much fun. Could talk about it all day, but I'll let it go on that note. Let me know what you guys think, and we'll catch up soon.